This is one of my favorites. It's one of the simpler one, but I really enjoyed doing this one.
It's one of the most important to the franchise
Yeah,
because this is our first encounter with one of our most important allies.
that's right, isn't it? Yeah.
The Asgard were with us through the rest of the show, and they committed mass suicide
What?
by the end of the series in season 10.
That's really sad.
Yeah,
What happened?
their genetic they couldn't get past their cloning problem, and it began to deteriorate their physical bodies. And instead of allowing all of their technology to fall into enemy hands, they blew all themselves up, and they invited us to witness the event in orbit. So it was really sad. But so who would have done this?
No idea.
Okay, that's
I've never
perfectly
seen that.
fair.
I don't remember seeing. I sure I must have, but I don't remember seeing that. What's the episode again?
This is 215, the fifth race.
Fifth Race. Okay. See what I can find for this.
Yeah. Yeah, there's two shots of this. This is the first one, and I don't know if I set aside the next shot. Yes, there it is. There's the other shot.
Yep.
Right there. You got a little lens flare happening here.
No. So the single foreground piece that they're standing in front of is a set.
Okay.
Yeah. The 2 feet coming down to the one top piece there on both left and the right, that is a set.
Okay. And then the rest is an extension.
The rest is an extension.
I got to say, these little Asgard are more than enough for nightmare fuel.
You're freaking me out now, too. I'd remember if I saw that. Oh, there it is. Hang on. Okay.
Yeah.
There's the plate. So there's the matte painting.
Yeah.
And there's the plate that was shot on set.
Wow. So the first two were real. Okay. Wow. Look at that. And you can see the back of the stage wall. That's definitely bridge. Wow. Okay. That a lot more was real than I anticipated.
It's good that you can't tell.
That's the thing. Can the customer, does the customer know the difference? You know, no.
And
Wow. How cool.
yeah, it's fun to see, isn't it? In this kind of context, right?
Nowadays they would throw up a volume in that space, and you could move the camera independently of the shot. But now you had to lock off the camera and just kind of do there's like a tilt up, after O'Neill gets off the floor, and he's holding that. Wow, look at that. Different lighting configurations.
So that was the render that was done in 3D for that plate.
So you rendered on top of what was created on the set for those shots, I guess, to match them up.
Again, yeah. So we take the plates, and you can see the perspective in the camera lens. Distorts the image, so it would have to be matched. And then we render to match that plate. Here's the plate that was shot. I don't know if I have the 3D for that. But yeah,
It's been 25 years. I'm thankful you have anything.
No,
Right.
I'll go back to the other one.
Well, this is 26 years. So. Yep, that's the entrance. Wow, that is so cool that we can see this. Yeah, he flies through the gate.
Yeah. And then, so here's the plate. So you can see obviously, it's a real physical thing. So the perspective lines and everything have to be matched, in order for it to sit in properly. But yeah.
Just crazy the amount of content that goes into completing just a few shots of a show to tell a story.
Nobody thinks about it.
Right.
Ideally, at this point, you're thinking about the little guys in the character of Richard Dean Anderson standing up,
Mm-hmm.
to meet them. That's what you really want to be focusing on. Everything else is there just to support that,
Mm-hmm. You believe that he's in this place.
Ideally,
so. The thing that would bother me would be the reflections on the floor there of the original of the stage wall. Part of me would want to just rebuild it from scratch. But again, it comes down to time. And of course, the longer that you stare at something, the more you're going to notice certain issues. So,
well, actually, that's exactly it, right? Like you're there not to make something. I mean, you make it as perfect as you can, but you make it for the context in which it's shown, right? Which is a quick panning shot or a look up, or a thing. There's always things that you can pick apart in anything, but the goal at the time is to sell the moment, at that moment in the show, right? And if it does its job, hopefully it doesn't look too fakey, but if it does its job, that's all that matters,
What rules of thumb are you living by at this point in production, working on this stuff 25 years ago? So to keep yourself from getting swept away in one specific shot, do you give yourself X amount of hours to work on something? Or, I mean, do you have a specific deadline on a date for each shot to hand it off? How is this working internally at this point?
You're totally part of a production system, always. I mean, the way it's working is that we have several shots going on at any one time, So, I mean, the show's released once a week, but it took, I think we had a development process of like 3 weeks or something, or a month for each show in the whole thing. So we'd have several shows going on concurrently. So realistically speaking, we probably only spent the equivalent of a week on any episode in totality. But that would have been stretched over the period of a month, so you're working on different things at the same time. So how long do these things take? Several days, it's a case of like work on it for a little bit, move on to something else, come back to it, get it done. Of course, there are deadlines because everything has to fit into the production system, and get delivered down the line, so that nothing is waiting, because it really is, for lack of a better term, a sausage factory.
I imagine Joel Goldsmith and the folks at Sharp Sound aren't working with a finished plate. I imagine they're probably working with something that's somewhere along the way that at least has the timing locked off and an idea of what they're looking at. How far along was air from a lot of the shots that you would hand out? Was it weeks? Was it days? Okay.
Because there's a lot that happens after, there's the editing, there's the assembly. It's all happening at the same time. So what we do is we deliver rough edits, or they would have placeholders for our shots, because they film everything. And it was filmed back then.
Mm-hmm.
They would film everything cut by cut by cut, and then scan it, and then begin to assemble it in editing. And what they would do for our shots, of course, they'd been planned out, like we talked about from Richard and Ken. So they had the plates that they would shoot on set, and they would put them in as placeholders, and then as we would rough our work in, we would hand it back to them or onto them, with our rough edits in place, basically, or sometimes we'd give them just the 3D that they would drop in. And then after that, it would go on to compositing, and the finals would be delivered, back to them and inserted. And so it's interesting because there's a lot to consider, doing the environments in the matte painting. It's more than just the image itself. You have to look at the cuts and consider the context of which it's shown. The lighting, the feel, the color timing. The shots again, like, have to tell the story. They have to blend in and just tell that moment, and then move on, right, with the story. And so the color has to match. The lighting has to match. Everything has to, be part of that flow.
Thanks for watching this clip from Dial the Gate. You can find the full live stream shows on our YouTube channel, or visit dialthegate.com for the complete schedule. See you on the other side.